Hello and welcome. So as you guys know, we already have a course running on Udemy. The course is Mastering EPLAN. So if ever you want to be part of the moving train, you are able to register for the course or enroll for the course. The link for the course is in the description. So just click on the link and it will direct you to Udemy. And from there, you are able to register or enroll for the course. So moving right along. So the next question we had was with regards to the 3D layout space and the components which were inserted inside the 3D layout space using Insect Center, and also the components were not actually showing inside his reports. So the student was generating his reports, and what was happening is that the components and all the cabinet items like the enclosure items, the accessories were not showing inside his reports. So immediately I knew that he had a problem with his structures. So for example, if ever you look at this page, you can see that the enclosure, I have two enclosures, enclosure 1 and enclosure 2, and some of the accessories that I've added as an example. You can see that they actually appear inside my structure, but they actually appear inside the wrong structure. So you can see they actually appear inside here, but they appear right here underneath this one. What the student wanted to do is that he wanted the items for the enclosure to appear underneath the structure, which is TN01. So you can see even his layout space was labeled as TN01. So his layout space was labeled as TN01, but his enclosure was not appearing underneath TN01. For the VBN 3D, you can see I've created this one. This is the 3D layout space that I've created, and you can see this is the enclosure, and also the items for the 3D layout space actually do appear right here. So they do appear underneath the parts list, so you would be able to see it if you look at the parts list, but they were not appearing for this enclosure that the student was creating, which was the TN01. And immediately what I informed him to do was that to open and show me a screenshot of his properties for the 3D layout space that he has actually created. So just to show you, open the properties, and immediately what I noticed is that the structure identifiers was not actually labeled. So this is very important when you're designing in 3D. When you create a layout space, the first thing before I even include a cabinet inside my 3D layout space, before even I include the smallest component inside my 3D layout space, I always define this one. So you need to actually define this one so that you let EPLAN know where to actually put all the items with regards to this, where to put them in terms of reports, where to put all the information in terms of reports, in terms of the items that you require. So you can see if ever I swap this one, I'll change it. I can actually just click on these three dots. I'll actually find it easy by clicking on those three dots, click on these ones. This one will be for the welding shop, and then we'll click this one, and this one will be station 1, and we'll click this one, and this one will be for the control cabinet. So it will be the control enclosure, which is the one in station 1. I would say okay to that, and therefore this one I do not need to use it because we are not using user-defined structures. So therefore once I say okay to that, and you can see now it has an identified structure. So therefore I'm fine with that one. I'll say okay to that, and therefore now if I generate the reports, this enclosure with the necessary items like the base blend and also the sides will actually appear inside with the unique structure that I've defined. So you can see at the moment they appear right here, but once I generate my reports, so I'll click my project, I'll select my project, and after that I'll go to tools and I'll say generate, and after that I'll generate my project. So I'll generate it underneath templates. You can see I have other information with regards to that. I'll just generate it, and right there you would see that the enclosure will actually move from the incorrect structure to the correct structure. There you go. You saw it disappeared from there, and you can see EPLAN has also closed that window because that window was actually showing that page, and that page no longer exists. So now it has actually jumped to the correct position. So now if you look at it, you can see underneath this one, it's underneath station 01 controls enclosure, and that's where I actually needed to be. So you can see there it appears right here, and therefore those are the items for the enclosure. So therefore that's how you can actually make sure that it appears underneath the correct enclosure. And therefore you can see these terminals are just these terminals that are appearing on page 101. So you can see these are the terminals that are appearing right there. So therefore that's how you can do it. If I reverse the process, you can see as well, I'll just open the properties of this layout space, reverse the process by just deleting these. So I'll just delete these right here, say okay, and therefore you can see I do not have the structure, so I do not have the structure identified, and therefore I'll say okay to that. They still appear right here, but I need to generate my reports. So you can see if I select my project inside my page navigator, select my project, go to generate underneath tools, and therefore generate my reports. I'm just going to generate all the reports, not necessarily for the parts list, but generate all of them. And after that, you can see now it has jumped back to there. So if I say close, you can see it has disappeared from here and it has jumped back to here. So therefore, you need to always define your structures. So you need to always define your structures when you create a new layout space. If I create a new layout space, I'm just going to say new to a layout space. I just label it, say maybe, for example, this is a power enclosure. We'll just say power enclosure. That's what you can call it. You can name it whatever that you want to name it right here. But here, you always need to define it. So you always need to define it to say this one that I'm creating will actually be somewhere here. It will actually be maybe under general assembly. It will also be underneath maybe station 9. It will also be underneath, let's select maybe a PLC inside station 05. Say okay to that. Say okay to that, and say okay to that. And now you can start adding your cabinet. So make sure that before you add anything inside your layout space, you just define the structure right here. This one, it's very important. The description is not important, but for me, this one, it's always important. That's the first thing that I do when I actually create a 3D layout space. So therefore, that's all the student had to do. He had to actually make sure that he has the correct structure identified. So yeah, that's all the student had to do. So thanks very much for watching this video. If ever you have more questions, just hit me up in the comment section. And therefore, I'll see you guys in the next question, which is the next video. So thanks very much.